Hi friends, and welcome to my weekly stream about the Uno platform. My name is Jérôme Laban. I'm the CTO of the open source project Uno platform, and I will be spending about an hour or so taking a look at Uno issues and talking about what's happening with Uno. And this week we're going to take a look at something that we were taking a look last week, which is the support for Linux Framebuffer 16 bits in 16 bits mode. So the color format, and also taking a look at one other additional issues with the support for code behind files and resource generation. So before we start, last week we had the release of Visual Studio 2022 16.3 Preview 2. So it actually happened right before the stream of last week. And so there were a few things that changed during that time, and namely the support for the newer format of .NET workloads for mobile devices. So we're talking about iOS, Android, Catalyst, and macOS. And that format changed a bit, and that made the Uno check tool that you have to use when you want to start developing for Uno or get to the last version of .NET not working properly. So it was failing in a pretty bad way. So it was not installing anything. So the first thing that you need to do to get to that point is to go to our discussions, and there's a support for Visual Studio 17.3 preview. And basically what you have to do is the same thing as you had to do before, which is make sure that you have either installed Uno check here or updated Uno check using the -g parameter. And then you have to run Uno check --pre, which is going to enable you to use Visual Studio 17.3 preview 2, and will make everything work properly. So the weeds of it is, interesting, and it's something that you may have to, you may ultimately find out when you're playing with workloads. But in Uno check, there's a notion of manifests, and there's a new format for the values of the versions of the workloads for each individual Catalyst, tvOS, macOS, and others that need to be installed. And there's a new version that's appended at the end of the file version, and it allows for the .NET team to have a kind of a balance between either using the new 6.0400 .NET SDK or the previously released 6.0300 SDK. So it's a detail, but it's quite important because that's a new format that needed some changes to get working in Uno check, because we are not supporting that new format. The .NET team knows that there are some difficulties in using workloads, and specifically the fact that it may install versions of workloads that you may not want to use or things like that. So for now, for Uno, we're relying on Uno check because it installs very specific versions that are aligned with what you want to use, but it may be different in some other cases. So that's they know about it. Hopefully, I hope it will be fixed somewhere during the .NET 7 timeframe. This is one of the newer changes that will allow for easier installation, but hey, we'll see. Magnets has a question: is it safe to use VS previews in production? So I'd say yes and no. The thing is that if you want to do some .NET 6 or mobile, you have to use a preview because there's no stable version of Visual Studio that allows you to do some .NET 6 for iOS, Android, and others. It will be most likely in the 7.3 stable release that it will be available from Microsoft specifically. Now, what's interesting is that with Visual Studio 17.3 Preview 1 and 2, the workloads that are published as part of those builds are considered stable, or at least the 6.0300. So if you're in a CI and you're installing that specific version and the workloads that are coming along with it, then yeah, it's considered stable by Microsoft. So on our side, from the Uno side, it looks stable for sure. We have a few applications that are starting up properly with that, and we're going to be publishing them soon. So it's it looks pretty good. So that's the news about everything related to the newer version of Visual Studio. And now we can go take a look at some Linux stuff. Okay, so if you remember last week, if you were there, but if you weren't, let's just take a look at this. So what I have here is so I'm running a Visual Studio Code. So I'm connected. I have my Visual Studio here that's connected to my VM here. So it's a Linux VM. And what I have is Visual Studio Code connected to it. So I have access to the files over there. I have a terminal that's available here. This is done through the use of the remote SSH add-in. And what we want to do is enable the fact that it is possible for an application that uses the Framebuffer to use a 16 bits color format. So what we're going to do is try to change this so that we can actually have something interesting that works there. So what we had before is something that sets the 32 bits pixel format. So what we're going to do is going to change this to use the 16 bits pixel format here. So we're going to force it for now. But the idea is that in some devices like Raspberry Pis and others, it's a bit difficult for me to show you this because it needs to go through an HDMI pass-through. But anyways, that's what it is at this point. And we're going to try to see if we can display something in 16 bits mode. So what we did last week is set up the pixel format and screen information so that we can set it properly to the Linux machine that's running and show something. So last week we got to see here the sample application that we have for Uno, and we're going to try to get to that 16 bits stuff. So last week, for the same reason that we had trouble with Visual Studio and it was not installing properly, or it was having issues with running Visual Studio 17.3 Preview 2. We also had issues with the newer version of the workloads that were released, and we're going to have to do that change. So they published a new SDK, and that was causing some trouble. The installation was not working on this machine. So what we're going to try to do is just rerun this and see if we can get our .NET to be installed properly. I think I had that somewhere. Otherwise, we're going to go to the .NET install. Yeah, that's the one, not this one. Okay, so we have .NET 6. So let's try with .NET 6 and see if we actually get our .NET installed properly this time, because last week we had some kind of a mixed bag of things that were working halfway. So we have the last version. So this is 6.06. And so far it looks like it is building and installing properly. There you go. So hopefully we have 6.03.01. So we have .NET installed. So we don't have to do all those hoop jumpings that we had to do last week, which is kind of a run Visual Studio halfway, .NET halfway. So to build here, if I get back what we had before, we had to do a few things like, I think I have the history there. I don't have it here. I had the .NET to build, but that's not the one I wanted. So let's see if I have another one. I can pick up a previous build. That's so one other thing that we had was to change. So .NET build will just do for this one. One thing that we had before is that the T4 templates that we're using inside of Uno to build are not the right ones. And they're not working with the current version of .NET that we have here, but there's a new one that's called T4 T4.net, I think, or .net T4. So we're going to try to do that change so that we can build without having some hacks, the hacks that I had to do last week. So once we get the 16 bits pixel format running, which I think should be working soon enough, and then we can go and mix and do that kind of changes. So first, we're going to call the 16 bits pixel format here, instead of calling the 32 bits, and then we're going to see if we get something running. So does our.net build run properly? It looks like it should. So it's still building the T4 generator, but we're going to change that afterwards. Building a few preprocessor stuff. So one of the things that doesn't happen when building in a command line, and that Visual Studio is doing, is that it allows itself to skip some projects to build faster. And in that case, it's not doing it. So what we're going to do, and to go faster with that build, we're going to create a second application and build from this one, from this new application, so that we don't spend too much time building. And we're just going to copy parts of Uno so that it goes faster. I'm going to show you how to do this. So to run the application, so we're going to make, like last week, we're going to create a second terminal because there are issues with the terminal reset. It's going to be easier. So we're running as net 5, if I remember correctly. And then we need to run the sample app Skia Linux framebuffer.dll. Okay, let's see what it does. Okay, so it fails for a good reason. It says that it cannot open the frame buffer because, oh yeah, we have to run in super user, otherwise it won't work. But you can see here that I had some issues with the terminal. I lost the the cursor, but I could probably change that. So the default frame buffer applications expects that you're running the application from the same terminal or screen that you're running your frame buffer on. But in that case, it's not the same. So I'm losing the cursor, and it's something that we can change quickly. So let's do this afterwards. Let's run this. Okay. So it's still working, which is interesting because we changed the format, but it may be that for some reason it's using something completely different. So let's remove a few things so that we don't have that much log in there. So in the application for solution template, no, not this one. So the frame buffers, we're going to remove two things. The first one is not remove the cursor. So it's annoying to run from this console. And we're going to also remove the support for let's see if, I don't know if I can see it here. I think it's probably added automatically by something else. Yeah, it's added automatically by another package, and it's going to be the Skia one here. I think we do have the remote control Skia. We'll probably remove from here. And that should be enough. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at the frame buffer. So we're trying to set the 16 bits per pixel format, but for some reason it looks like it's doing something else. And it looks like we set 16 bits and we still got 32 bits. So it probably looks like even if we're asking for that mode, it's setting up another one. So let's see. So we're getting a transparency. We're reading the pixel format, and then we're expecting it to be 16 bits. So let's see if we actually have something that was running properly. So let's rebuild the app quickly. And we'll see if that changes it. If it should fail because we're expecting it to use 16 bits per pixel, but maybe Linux doesn't allow for doing that kind of things. So maybe we can't set the 16 bits frame buffer on that kind of machine. So we'll take a look. So just to be sure that we're building the right one, because I was starting the .NET 5, but maybe there's another one that's running. We're getting to the Linux frame buffer, and the default target is both. So we're running on both. So there's no override. So we should be running the net 5 and not 3.1. But let's see which one is building. Maybe they're both building, and that would be fine. Okay, so it's still building. It was a bit faster before. Interesting. I wonder if it was because I was still running the application on the other terminal. Could have been something like this. Nope, for some reason it's doing something else. Okay, so let's try again. But in the meantime, we're going to make a second window, and we're going to do our tests using one specific project. So if I open that terminal specifically, oh, interesting. It used the same window as the same window that was open currently. So that's not what I wanted. Okay, so we're going to make a second application. And that second application is going to be way smaller than the first one, so it's going to build faster because right now it's taking a bit of time to build. And I remember that last week we had seen that machine is actually a single core machine, so that's probably why it's taking a bit more time to build. And the compiler is making heavy use of the other CPUs. So we're going to make a new .NET. So let's see. I don't know if I have the Uno app. The Uno app target, but let's see. Doesn't look like I have it. So there's that new one that happens to exist. So it allows you to do some Uno search automatically. So that's nice. You can just do .NET new install, and it will install the latest stable of the packages. That's pretty nice. Okay, so let's do a test frame buffer. Okay, and then we're going to open that specific folder. And we're going to build for this one specifically because the other full solution is taking a bit more time to build. So test frame buffer, and so for our frame buffer here, we're going to do the same thing as we did before, which is remove the cursor, and we're going to remove the remote control stuff as well so that it doesn't fail because we're not installed everything to get the remote control running. So remote control is all about .NET. It's all about the hot reload part, so it's not needed in that case. I think I'm going to restart the machine and change the CPUs because it's way too slow. Okay, so let's shut it down for now because I don't want you to wait that much for that long just to rebuild a few small things. So So we're going to bump the number of CPUs of that machine if it wants to stop, of course. Okay, so it looks like stopping here was not making it stop. So let's do it from the terminal that we had here. So let's wait for it to stop. I'm going to bump it up to more CPU so it builds faster. Okay. So a bit more memory as well. So it's dynamic memory, so that'll be good. So let's bump it up to way more than that. It's a large machine, so let's go for a 16. It'll do. And let's try again. And we should be asking for this window to reconnect. I don't know if it's going to do it by itself. Most likely not. So let's restart the window. Okay. Same for this one. And we can go back to our folder and do a build, and it should hopefully go a little bit faster. And now for this part, so we had remove everything here. We should be able to go to a test Framebuffer. Framebuffer. Should be able to do a .NET build as well. This one should go significantly faster. Okay, that's much better. So we can see here that with more CPUs, it goes faster. So that's good. And we can also see that it's building for Netcore 1. So we should be able to go to that folder. Okay, so we're searching for Netcore app, and we want to start the application and see if we get something new this time. So we want to have something that sets the 32 bits display mode, and we can see here that we wanted to have that, but it didn't happen. So it may be that the mode that we're trying to get here is not possible here. So we're talking about screen info, and it's FB var screen info. So let's go take a look on some GitHub stuff. So let's say 16 bits, for instance, which is searching like this. And we're going to search for the exact name. So FB var screen info. It's supposed to be the structure that's used by the Linux kernel. So maybe there's a way to do this to set a 16 bits format. So that's a bit too verbose, but let's see if we can find something with on GitHub, maybe. So we're searching for bits per pixel is 16 bits. Maybe all of GitHub, maybe. So that's a lot. So we have a few things like depth here. What is that one doing? Looks like it's doing something with 16 bits. Is it? No, it's a Framebuffer stuff, but that's not specifically what we're looking for. So not that way. So we searched with that one. Maybe we can search with FB var or something. So we have RGBA. Yeah, it's probably a bit too screen, too specific. Yeah, that's a lot of the same thing. So not particularly useful. Okay, so let's see. Do we have something different here? So if some of you know about all this, so if you know how to set the frame buffer with a set of pixel with a specific pixel format, so 16 bits, please let me know, because I don't know about this one. Screen info. There's a bit of pixel. No, that's a Linux. That's something else. Do we need 16-bit mode? Okay. No, that's completely different. There are modes. So when you search for that kind of stuff, you tend to fall into many parts of the runtime that are of IoT devices that are pretty low level. So makes it a bit difficult to search for interesting things here. So what do I have here? So you can set bit per pixel in there, but is it the right ones? Maybe not. Get the margin here. Yeah, it's not particularly useful in there. Okay, let's search differently. "16 bits frame buffer only with latest kernel." Okay. It stays on 16 bits, which is interesting. So do we have something in there? That's Raspberry Pi firmware, so it's not going to give us anything. But that's interesting. So people are still having issues. Looks like they're having issues with this. Programming the Linux frame buffer. What do we have? No. So it talks about frame buffer here, but it doesn't allow for setting the format. So not what I'm looking for. Okay, that one is interesting. Yeah, that's the same as before, so not useful. Oh, that's myself, but a week ago. So what do we have here? So now that one is specifically for, it's not using the API, so that's not going to be helpful. Maybe there's a bit more information here. So what we're setting in our frame buffer API, we're setting the bits per pixel, but maybe there's something else in the documentation that allows us to do something else. Types and visual, pixel, grayscale, read. There's that. So the docs is interesting. So bits per pixel is guess what? So that's nice. To select the format, set the FB screen info pixel to the desired frame depth, buffer depth, grayscale, for true color. So maybe we're not doing the right set of invocations to set everything up, because we're reading the screen info differently. So maybe what happens is that we're going through that part because we've not configured anything properly. So maybe that's the problem. So let's see what we can modify in that at that location. So let's do some right lines a little bit more so that we can see. So FBIO put vscreen info failed. So we got this. So that's for the transparency. And so when we're doing this, it looks like we're putting the screen info here from the original value, and then we're reading it again. So let's see if we have the right values at that location. Maybe we don't. So so what we're looking for is that part. And we're searching for we want the bits per pixel. So let's show the bits per pixel at that location. And let's show it afterwards as well. So we know that it's not the right one, but let's see if we're setting it properly before. Maybe there's another invocation that's not working properly. So let's figure this one out. So we can see that the cursor is back now because we removed it before. So one of the other things, so we were talking about the T4 previously, and to be able to run it through Linux, we should be able to change a few things and not use our custom implementation for showing for compiling T4. So okay, so we're really setting the bits per pixel to 16, but it returns us a 32 bits display mode. So what I don't know is that maybe it's caused by the VM that I'm using. Maybe the Framebuffer that's provided by the VM itself is not supporting 16 bits format. That could happen. And that's why we are just, so we're setting it to, we're putting the screen info here to 16, and then we're getting back a 32 bits because it's set from here, so it doesn't work properly. So let's see, what do we have there? Maybe there's something else that we need to take a look at. So in the Framebuffer device, maybe there's a, let's see. If I change if I use this, does it show? So the call is successful, but it looks like for some reason the call is successful, but it's not working properly. So either it's because the values that I'm providing here are not the right ones, because I set the transparency stuff and things like that. But let's try something. So let's remove all the information that we're setting for the rest. See if we can, if they get filled up. Maybe they are. So let's try this. So it builds a lot faster than previously, so that's nice. Okay. Oh, nope, not that one. Okay, so it says we still have the FBIO vscreen failed, so it that one really fails. So we're setting the transparency to something that's empty. But and it's not being reset to something else. So looks like we're going to have to try on an actual device, because it's not providing us the right values. it has to be specific to a device. So I don't have a Raspberry Pi at hand that's set up correctly for us to test right away. But we're going to do that next week, I guess, because we don't have enough information to do this. But anyways, the what's missing then afterwards, when we have this set up properly, we're going to be able to set the pixel format here and have something that's going to be more interesting in that case. So let's switch gears and go to, we're going to try to implement the T4 stuff that I was talking about. So one of the things that we're doing instead of Uno is use the some kind of a custom T4 generator template, a T4 template generator, and in something that we could probably take a look at right now and see if we can change that. So inside of Uno here, there's a mixin generation target, and we actually modified that last week to just make it work. And I'm just going to revert the change so that we can take a look at the way it's executed. So the way it works is that we're running the T4 binary with an input file and an output path, and it generates file. It takes the input file and generates something at the output. So what we're going to try to do is determine if the files that are generated are the right ones using the new tooling. So if I go back here and I start the build again, it's going to fail differently because I restored the support for the T4 generation. But we're going to try to change this to use the T4 template stuff that has been developed by the Mono team. So it looks like it's still building properly. So I'm probably going to have to remove a few files or change a few files so that they pick up the changes. Let's do this. Let's see. I've just saved the file, and you can see if it uses the right targets. So it looks like it was built already. Yeah, Uno UI SkiSO is built. So not the right thing. So what we're going to do is delete some of the files that are generated as part of what are called mixins here, and force it to regenerate everything. Okay, this time, let's see, let's hope it'll pick up the, yes, there you go. Okay, so it failed this time in the right way. So it says that the Mono T4 generator mix dependency property or mixin is failing. So what we're going to try is do .NET T4. Does that one work? No, it doesn't work that way. So we could probably install it as a tool. Let's see if we can install it as a global tool. Install a G. So we're going to try to see if it works for to begin with, and then I'm going to try to install it to use it from the Uno tooling. So it's called .NET T4. Oh, it's already installed globally. Okay, so that is not working. So maybe we can use T4 that way. Okay, T4 works directly. So we get T4 in option files. So let's see what we have for the options. We have output file. It says the assembly. Okay. Okay, so it requires an output file, which I may not have. I have an output folder, but not an output file. It's supposed to output in the mixins folder, so maybe we're gonna have to adjust that a little bit. That's interesting because it's the way it works is that when you have a T4 file, the output file name is specified in the file itself. So it's supposed to be taking the file name and then output the file at the same location. But for some reason, it's not. It looks like it's not going to do this. But let's try it. Let's try it and see if that works. So we're going to take the exact same command and see if that helps. So the path is exactly this. So we're talking about T4 and no input file specified. Okay, so does it have to be named? Okay, no, so it doesn't like the second output. Okay, so it fails because it tries to read using Windows paths and it's not working here. So we may still have to change a few things for that. So do we have dependency properties implementation? So let's see if we can change this. Mixins dependency property implementation. Okay, so the path is not here. It's likely to be inside of the original file, probably at the end. There you go. Okay, so let's change that to be a /. Okay, still not working. And it's because we're not in the right path. So let's go in the right path. Okay, so it generated something. Now the question is, where did it generate something? So to be sure, we're going to be just writing something up here. Well, what do you know? It writes the file at the right locations. So it uses the source path to generate the file. So that's good. So that means that we should be able to use this to replace the support for the T4 targets there. Well, that's an interesting part. So what we need to do now is install the tooling for to generate the T4 as part of Uno itself, because otherwise it won't work properly. So let's replace this with a package reference. And we're going to use the package for, well, the one that we installed, which I don't know the name of. So I think it's .NET. It's the package name is probably .NET T4, but let's validate. It is .NET T4. Okay, so we're going to be installing this one in version 2.2.1. And I changed folders, but that's not the right one. So let's go back to original one. And let's do .NET build. So let's see if it installs properly. So what we're expecting is that that package is going to be installed properly. But we can see here that it installs and it's compatible only with .NET 5. So if it's compatible only with .NET 5, that's going to cause us some trouble because we can't add a dependency or a tool dependency as part of the build for .NET for Uno. So what should we do here? Is there another package? Maybe there are some other packages that are... Oh, there's project tool. Oh, I missed that one. Okay. That one is interesting. So how do we use it? So if I take this one and let's do a build. What do we have there? it's probably a target that we can execute. If that's the case, that's going to be a lot easier. So it's not compatible with Net Standard 2, which is annoying. I don't understand how that can work. Because it's a project tool, but it's not. No, that can't be used that way. Okay, so there's mono text templating. So that one is a bit different. So what is it? What is this one? Okay, so that one can run. It looks like an existing one, but it's a DLL. It's something that we can use. You know, we can't really use it as a tool. So we'd have to replace our implementation with the one that's compatible with .NET here. So likely this one. Yeah, it looks like this one. So mono text templating. So we're gonna change that. So we get in a project. Oh, there's something. .NET CLI tool reference. That's interesting. So I thought that that it was removed. It was removed a long time ago. Okay, so it looks like we're gonna have to change something. I don't think this is supported anymore. It's part of an older way of doing tool references in packages, but in projects, but I don't think it's valid anymore. Yeah, it's something. Yeah, it's soft deprecated. Okay, so it's global tool stuff. So this is something that's not used anymore. So not particularly useful in that case. So what we may end up doing is kind of replace the whole tool that we have that is in here. So we have a tool that's defined that uses another version of the T4 templates. It's called T4 generator here, and that T4 generator is using the tooling that's coming from Visual Studio, the Windows version of Visual Studio, and it doesn't look like it's going to be working well on those targets. So we may end up being able to change it. Let's see if we can do this. So let's do it from Windows because it's going to be easier in that case. So we have the T4 template tools here. So the T4 generator. Let's see if we can replace the dependency here. So let's add the NuGet package T4 .NET T4, and there was one for I don't know, it was called mono.text templating. Okay, so let's install this one, and we're going to be removing all the others. So the installation worked, it looks. Yeah, it did, because there's a check mark. And we're going to be removing all the others that are not used here. So we're going to be removing pretty much all of this. And let's bump the tool to use net 5 for now. Well, let's go for net 6 for now for testing. Okay, so let's go for net 6. I don't think we need. Well, let's keep that one. I don't know what that does. Okay. So maybe the APIs are the same. Okay, so engine is obsolete. So we have, okay, so the APIs are pretty close to the other original ones. So maybe we can use, maybe it's a drop-in replacement, which would be great. It looks like it is. It looks like it is, but not too sure yet. So app domain is not supported. So we are using custom command line host, but we may not need this anymore. Okay, let's see if it works, because maybe that is not used anymore, and we can just ignore the error. So let's remove it for now. So it's not that one. It's actually syslib 0024. So let's remove that one for now and see if the tool can actually work. Okay, so it builds, which is good. I don't remember if we're using the custom, because we have that custom command line host, but maybe it's not used. No, it is used, but you know, it's used to do the text templating stuff. But maybe, yeah, we'll see. Let's see, because you know, the other parts of host templating for the T4 generation was not available before, so or less working on mono, so maybe they removed it somehow. So I'm on this one, which is fine. So let's see if I rebuild everything. Do I get the generation of the templates? Yeah, .NET 5 is, so make BMCL is saying that the .NET 5 reached end of support at the beginning of May. Yes, it's that's very true. It's still working, and it's not, the problem here is not about targeting .NET 5 when you're developing an app. It's just that the runtime that you're going to be using is going to be you know, the one that's available there. And the important part that I learned that recently, when you're creating an application that runs .NET 6, you need to be using the roll forward property that says major. Otherwise, if you target .NET 5, then you're going to stay on .NET 5, and when you have only .NET 6 installed, then it's not going to work. So this says to the runtime, yeah, it was built on .NET 5, that's fine, but if there's only .NET 6 available or later, just, you know, make it run anyways. It's not the default, but you know, something that's interesting as well. Okay, so it was not run. So let's remove some C# file, so we can force it to run anyways, and see if the tool can run properly. So if it does, it's gonna make it a lot easier to work with. Okay, so we see generating mixins, but it fails using I don't know what. So time for it's not here. So it's time for extension for the ability to get the project system tool. So if you search with project system tool, you download this and restart your Visual Studio. Once it's installed, and it's going to give you the ability to run builds and get binary binlog files that you can you diagnose to see what's happening. So we get an error here. We don't know what it is. So just to avoid having textual logs that are huge, we just install the project system tools, and it will give us some bin logs. So once that's done, we'll be able to get back to it. I don't know what they're doing when they're doing all this. Most of the time it's just copying files to a new location, but it looks like they're rebuilding some cache or whatnot. I'm not sure exactly what, but it takes a lot of time. There you go. Or maybe it's my machine that's taking time. Oh no, it's the first launch of Visual Studio after installing an add-in, so it takes a bit more time. Okay, so now I can reload my unit test solution filter. And now I'm going to load the window that shows the build logging, start the logging here. And let's see what we do get now. So it's likely going to fail. So it failed the first time, so that's good. So now we can go to the build logging tooling and get the actual command line that was executed to get there. So I think it was called generate mixins, and we had generate mixins here, target exec, and it did object reference not set to an instance of an object. Okay, so what we can do is take the value, and we're going to go and debug that specific tool to see where it fails. So we need to go to debug here and change and add some command line arguments. So we're already in the tool, so that's fine. And we have absolute paths for everything. And that should be enough. And let's see where we do fail. Okay, right at the beginning. So that's going to be easy. So it fails because input is null. So it's the line ending conversion. And this is failing because the process template is returning nothing by the looks of it. Okay. Okay, so definitely it's not a drop-in replacement for the T4 template stuff. So let's pull it out and see what we do get. So I don't know where that goes. Hopefully they have added source link metadata so we can drill into. No, it's not giving us anything. Okay, so does process template give us anything? So the compile template. No, source link is here, so it should have been working. So maybe I don't have. Maybe I have just my code enabled in the debugger. Yeah, there you go. So I don't have just my code. Okay, so I should be able to debug it this time. Nope, still not. Okay. Maybe. If I load the symbols, should I go to, there we go. Okay, so we're in compile template. This starts to work. We have the parse template that gives us something with segments and others. We have the compile internal. We have some settings. We don't have any errors. We have an extension. We have a compile unit. Code compile unit with code down. We have no references. We have no references. Okay, so that could be a good reason why it fails. Okay, so it would be the process references that doesn't work. Okay. Could be because of a custom command line host or something. So let's try it again. Oh, okay, so it was optimized, so we can't try again. So we get a compilation of the template. The generate compile unit works, but we may not have a list of references. Okay, so in settings, we have a list of assemblies. We don't have any assemblies, so we have a list of resolve assemblies. System.core. Okay, so it may be that our custom tooling here is building using .NET 4. It may not be using .NET 5, .NET Framework, but it's not using anything else. So for some reason, we're resolving something that doesn't work. Let's try again. So we're doing to just to remind ourselves, we're doing all this because we want to be able to run the T4 tooling on Linux using what we already have. So it looks like the APIs are the same, but for some reason it's not giving us anything that matches what we want. So system.core doesn't exist, and we're trying to get the file. And we're not resolving anything. So one thing that would be interesting is to determine how the original tooling is resolving assemblies in that case, because it may not resolve files the same way we do. Errors. It says could not resolve assembly system core. So to do this, maybe we should be let's go take a look at the original implementation for .NET T4. Maybe they have their own implementation of that specific class. Custom domain assembly resolver. I don't remember the name exactly of this, the one that we're using. It's a text templating engine host. So maybe we can find an implementation of this that works with the new tool. Compile template generator, current domain assembly resolver. Not what we need here. Dummy host. Dummy host is interesting. Not exactly what I was expecting. Yeah, okay, the dummy host is not useful. Okay. So it looks like there's no implementation of this specific template engine host. So we may need to build our own. There's a current domain assembly resolver, but that's not what we're looking for. Okay, so let's build our own. Resolve assembly reference. So I don't know if it's supposed to be a path. Yeah, we need to be looking for the current assembly. So let's look for the current implementation. So it will be in the current domain. So let's go for assembly, it's app domain, current domain, assemblies, get assemblies. And let's go for first or default for the name of assembly reference at the top. So assembly name, full name of the assembly. Let's go for this for full name of the assembly. Assembly reference. So is assembly. So we got our assembly here. Just going to close this because I don't see much. So if we do have an assembly, then we can return the assembly. Not the full name, but the location. So we need to have the actual location of the file so we can load it, so we can have the tooling load it. Okay, so it doesn't find it in the assemblies. Maybe we have, maybe that one doesn't exist here. So let's go check what we have loaded in that context. So there are some assemblies, but maybe we don't have the one we're looking for. So maybe it's a dependency that we should be adding. Let's see. So we are looking for so I see good night from India. Good night to you too. So I don't, is it night for you? Or it's early morning? I'm not sure. I'm not too sure. So we have dependencies here and in the UI. So we have an import for system core. So maybe that one doesn't exist. So let's take it out. See if it helps. So we're resolving some actual assemblies, which is good. Okay, so we're still getting an invalid output, but it's like, so it ran a bit longer. That means that there's some other parts of the process we're running, so that's good. So let's try to find which one is failing. So we have two references. So system private URI, system link, which is a bit odd, but why not? So we're compiling and then we have results, compilation results that are telling us that something is wrong. So type of namespace text templating is not available. In generated transformation initialize, no suitable method found. Okay, so this one is something that I've not seen. No suitable method. Well, this looks specific to the tooling that we were talking about here. Okay, so the T4 template was generated, so the code that generates the template is generated, but the tooling is not able to run the complete. It's not able to run the generated code, so we're missing something here. So what could that be? So I don't know what that is, but we're gonna have to figure it out next time. because it looks like we need some additional dependencies in the compile code here, but we're not getting them. One last thing that we can look at is determine what the .NET T4 template is, the project is doing. So we can go to the tools here. It's using the monotext templating. So I don't know. Let's go see what the T4 DLL is doing. And let's take a look at the startup path for this specific tool. Just curious, there's no main method for this one. Options. That one was imported. Text transform. Text template generator. To create session. It's not what I want. Yeah, there's no implementation for this specific tool. And what do we have? We have a mono templating. Let's look at that one quickly as well. See if we can find something of use. We're looking at we're searching for one specific type, and maybe there's an implementation there. Looking for the custom command line host. Maybe it's available, or an equivalent of a custom host. And exposed by, no. Get used by. So we get the host here. Yeah, there's no implementation of that type here. Okay, so it has to be provided by something external. So yeah, okay. Yeah, there's only mono templating template generator, so that's the only one that can provide this, and it's public. Maybe we could use that one. So let's see. Let's use template generator instead of our custom tool that we had at the top. So let's use it for a template generator. Yeah, but it's not using the same thing, so we don't have a template file, the template file value here, so it's not the same thing. A template file. Okay, so we can use template file instead. There's no file extension. But maybe we don't need it. So let's see what that does. Inaccessible. Properties not accessible. Why not? Oh yeah, I'm not in the right one, am I? There you go. So it's a protected set. Okay, so I still have to implement that up top. So it would be that I need to inherit from. Okay, so yeah, that's a bit too many modifications for today. So I'm going to take a look at that during the weekend, and we can try to find something that can make that work properly, so that we can run on the Raspberry Pi directly, so that we can try it out and see if we can get something running properly on our thing. And maybe there's something that allows us to get to new Framebuffer. Framebuffer. How do we get that? show a frame buffer through a network, so I can use VLC or something like this. Maybe that exists, so we'll see. So I hope you learned a bunch, and that it was as interesting as it was for me. And see you next week, and happy coding. Bye for now.